Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I am joined by sex and intimacy coach Finn Deerhart and spiritual lifestyle curator LeoRising Scott. And today we're talking about race, racism, sex, sexuality, porn, and more, and all of that in less than 60 minutes. So let's get started. I feel like we should also talk about, between the three of us, LeoRising, Finn Deerhart, Davey Wavey, our name game is strong.
Totally.
Yeah. We're bringing it. Absolutely. Himeros Live is brought to you by Himeros.tv. I will save the small talk, but with our current Pride sale, you can get a 2-year pass to Himeros.tv for the price of 1 year. That means nothing to cancel, and you'll enjoy unlimited access to downloads and videos for less than $8 per month. You can join today at Himeros.tv/celebrate. Hey guys, so welcome. Great to have you, LeoRising.
Thank you for having me. It's great to break through.
Yeah, good. We were talking a little bit before we started recording about signs, astrological signs, and I have been told by some reliable sources that LeoRising as a sign means bright, shiny, dramatic, and attractive to others because of your warmth, and that you have the radiance of the sun at your front door. Do we feel like that's accurate?
I feel like I should carry that around and just play it as I walk into front doors.
Yes, I've arrived.
It is accurate. The ascendant, the other operative term is ascendant sign, is the emperor's new clothes that you wear after your adolescence. So, you know, like the term birthday suit?
Yeah.
Your ascendant, your rising sign is part of your aura. And so when you're super healthy, no matter what color you're wearing, no matter what clothes you're wearing, people should identify you eventually through your ascendant sign. I have spent my life closest to dramatic art to tame inner drama. I would prefer everything be a narrative healing moment instead of like living it out. And so that's where I really started stepping into my ascendant sign. And then also, I'm pretty shiny.
Yeah. Well, I was skeptical when I read that because I was like, well, I think most people would want to self-identify as radiant, not that you aren't. So I was like, well, let me see. I'm Cancer rising. I did my work, and it said that I'm sensitive, but I have a hard outer shell, and that I'm wary of people, which definitely doesn't feel as good as being radiant, but also feels very true to me. So there you go.
What about you, Finn?
I am a Leo rising. I'm a Capricorn sun, Leo rising, and a Leo moon too. It's a lot of Leo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, LeoRising, you're going to be joining Finn and I for the next 4 weeks, and we'll talk about why in a minute. But since you're going to be with us and with our audience for a while, I want to read a little bit from your bio that you sent over. So LeoRising is a courage awakening yogic embodiment coach who utilizes narrative healing, meditation, mindful movement to consciously set space for his students and clients. Their mission is to engage the present moment, rooted from their sense of purpose to power and ready, so that we can all rise together and keep rising with clear intentions and an open heart. LeoRising is also an actor, spiritualist, writer, teacher, and fully unfinished human being who seeks to be an ally to survivors, a truth leader for the spiritually bold, a voice of political equality, a witness to the reprieve from a fully relieved breath, and a gift to any atmosphere he lends his presence to. Very radiant indeed. And
I like to write about myself as if I'm dying and it's a eulogy, because then I have to live up to it every day.
Yeah. You're in Los Angeles now, right?
Freshly moved, yeah.
Okay. From New York?
From New York.
Oh, wow.
Did you grow up in New York?
I grew up above the Bronx in a town called Yonkers. So they like to say it's not a borough, but it's not a borough. It's not at all. But yeah, I grew up in New York my whole life.
I'm curious to know a little bit more about like your experience kind of growing up and what got you from, from birth to what you're doing today. And I'm nosy. I inherited it from my mother.
What's your sun sign, Davey?
I don't know my sun sign.
You know your rising sign, not your sun.
I did research for this. Yeah.
When's your birthday, Davey? What date?
July 12th, 1983.
July 12th would be.
That's the Cancer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the birth time?
5 a.m.
And so you're Cancer sun, Cancer rising.
It said, the internet told me I'm Cancer rising.
We'll look this up. I got you.
Okay.
And what was the spin back on the question? Just like growing up and how I got here?
To what you're doing today. Yeah.
Gosh. No one listened to me, so I had to show out. No, it's the truth. When it came to spirituality and mindfulness, my family was really encouraging. They were they moved around. My father's family was Muslim and Christian, and also studied a lot of other philosophies. My grandparents never closed themselves off to learning because a lot of them came from places that, just in America where education was a self-study. Then both of them one set of them did not make it to high school. So anything that they learned, they got for themselves. I carry them with me in everything that I do for that accomplishment. And a lot of my cousins and my sister, they really made sure to just go as far as they wanted to go through academics, to honor just the fact that our grandparents are self-studied, brilliant people. Movement has just been a gift. I move well, and I wanted to use every bit of it to understand myself. I did not know. I knew, but I didn't know there was language behind it. I didn't know there was philosophy behind moving well and how that could support me having a great life. I never for a second wanted to be a yoga teacher. I thought it was like the corniest thing on the planet. I was like, absolutely not doing it. And I fell in love with it by day 3 in my training. I walked away from everything else that I've studied, everything else that I knew, to follow through on it. And it made so much space for me.
What was it about yoga that made it so special, or why it resonated with you?
I never had to mask myself. I didn't have to mask specifically during training. At the top of it, I didn't have to mask anything that made my Blackness endangered at the top. Now that shifted as it became a career. But when I was predominantly acting, or I was in sales, or I was in retail, everything had to have some sort of a code switch. And when I was teaching yoga, I didn't catch it right away. I just was present. No one was complimenting me on how I articulated or just making me feel like I was some sort of token freak thing. People just genuinely wanted to move their bodies. With enough time in there, 8 years to be specific, it showed everything. I live in America. Everything got showed. We saw it all. But at the heart of it, when I fell in love and I was like, I think I'm safe here. I believe I can make a career out of this, and I feel aligned, purposeful. Ultimately, it just helped me find the beginning of self-agency that I didn't have as a child.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to your yoga work and your spiritual work, you also do anti-racism work.
You have to when you're in the wellness group. I personally am well threaded, loomed, and interconnected with Black women who are leading in the forefront of anti-racism work. They're all occupied, and I am a gatekeeper to them. I keep them so safe. Layla Saad, Latham Thomas, Blair Imani, she's a queer Muslim woman. She is best friends with one of my clients. And meeting her and getting a bit of her book, I have three copies of Me and White Supremacy, which everyone should get, but it's actually it's sold out right now on the website. June 4th, 2020, Me and White Supremacy is sold out, and they have to make more copies.
Wow.
That is amazing, by Layla Saad. And in being a gatekeeper, I'm also honoring my ancestors, which I'll talk about later in the program. But civil rights and Black equality, specifically Black visibility and Black recognition in business, in school, and in love. So in love, what what's come up a lot is everyone wants to be healed and activated by Black people. They want a bit of the culture, but a lot of the times they don't know after that session is over, after that concert is over, how to then navigate and integrate the lessons and the humanness of those relations. And so based on how I work, to sum it up, a lot of white clients become very vulnerable and they ask a particular question and then I had to answer it. And so then I was attracted to Layla's work and I started getting into Rachel's work. And then I started asking my elders questions, so people that are alive. It just, you fall into it. You fall into it for being Black and people opening themselves to you and being psychic, having a gift and people's, I've been apologized to. I believe, and they believe, but I've been apologized to by people's white ancestors in the middle of the session. It's been interesting. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're like connected to the wisdom of like the generations that came before
Absolutely.
you, like through your Yeah,
I believe everyone can be, and we're supposed to be. I don't believe in many shoulds. I genuinely believe we're all supposed to have the awareness because we're picking up from what in my private sessions I always say, no matter what you think you did, or no matter how angry you are at an elder or your parents, you have the best parts of them. And if you can work every day to honor the best parts of them, the most broken parts that maybe you have to be privy to, or maybe that your mom or your dad is still traumatized from, heals little by little. So every generation of family gets a chance to have descendancy is an opportunity to repair. In my language, it'd be like a hex or a blight over mentality, not something that's like, oh my gosh, I have to go bury this in the woods to get rid of it. But it's like, it's a momentum of thought that becomes cellular.
It's interesting because I think like as kids, we have the ability that you're talking about. It's almost like we unlearn it as we get older. My niece, my sister's daughter, keeps telling my sister that her great-great-grandmother visits her at night. And my sister is like so freaked out by it. She's like, my sister had her hair up in like a certain way with some braids. And my niece was like, oh, you look like, and she spoke the woman's name. And my sister was like, who's that? And she's like, oh, that's your great-great-great-grandmother. She visits me at night. And she wears her hair like that. And my sister was like, we need security cameras. Like, who's talking to my kid at night?
Dude, my sister, her little daughter too, so my niece like would talk in the room like all the time. My sister was like listening into her, and then she was having these conversations like, who are you talking to? And my niece would say like, oh, the man at the window. So my sister, like, same thing, like, oh, okay, well, who's the man at the window? And like she was really consistent with this, and did some research on the property, and there was like an older man that was like, had been reported there before too, that people saw, and then my sister had never said that to her. So little girls, they know.
The structure of those beliefs, thank you for sharing those stories, first of all, but the structure of those beliefs is that feminine embodiment and feminine force representation receives a little quicker. So when you're learning the art of receiving energy or receiving clarity of words, clarity of instruction, you want to receive from the left side. And so it kind of like pushed the energy over. And then the right side is about execution, action, and masculine, positive masculine intention. But to be honest, also negative masculine intention and negative feminine intention. Like, it is what it is. Polarity is a thing. Duality is a thing. But when something in my language is of spirit, it's usually coming from good. It's ego that towards it.
So LeoRising, I reached out to you through a friend that connected us, and you immediately asked me kind of what my motivation was in us possibly collaborating.
Yeah, I didn't trust that shit for
no. And I was like kind of taken aback by it, and I think I'm a little bit more tuned into why now. I also just want to be transparent with the audience, and I think this was over the weekend. And on social media, people started posting quotes and comments about George Floyd's murder, the protests, racism. There was a lot. There was a lot on social media, And there's a few things that I believe to be true. And the first thing that I was kind of picking up on is that it's very easy, albeit important, but very easy to point to what happened to George Floyd and say, this is wrong, this is terrible, this shouldn't happen, because it is terrible. But there's a second part of that it's a lot harder to think about the bigger picture and even turn our attention inward and think about how our actions and our words and our thoughts and our inaction and our non-words may contribute to societal racism in a way that allows those police to see someone as less than human. So, it's easy to say that cop is a murderer. It's harder to say, and we talked about this a little bit, when I go on Pornhub and search for BBC or Thug, that I'm contributing to something that dehumanizes a group of people, or using the ethnicity filters on Grindr that, by the way, have since been removed by Grindr. They did that this week. Yeah. So I wanted to have this conversation because I think we can bring some attention to our blind spots, and so that I can bring attention to my blind spots and in the work that I'm doing. And then the third piece was that, Finn and I talk about sex all the time. It's our thing. We can talk about sex for hours, but when we start talking about race, we start to come up against kind of the limitations of our own lived experiences. And we fall into this place of like having the conversation through a white lens. And there's just a certain limitation with that. And so that was the motivation in reaching out and connecting with you.
Finn?
Yes.
Anything to
Yeah, I mean, you said very eloquently how I'm feeling too, Davey. I'm just excited to be involved in this conversation. Like, I feel like some guidance would be really helpful for me. The perspectives are so polarized, like from so many people that I see. Doesn't matter if they're people of color or white people, or but the perspectives that I'm seeing are so diverse and polarized that I'm so I'm like, okay, so, like, I have people telling me like, don't say anything at all. You can't say anything. Don't be a white knight. And then like on the other side of it being like, if you don't say something, it's like death. I'm like, oh my God, like what, so just kind of really wanting to have guidance and understanding. I'm researching materials a lot right now, wanting to look into my own self and grow. So yeah.
Thank you. I want to make it clear that both are true. Don't be a white knight and don't get caught being silent. If you have Black people in your life that love you, that have gone to bat for you, that subscribe to you, like, for whatever reason. However, the greatest thing, and none of my white friends, not allies, I'm going to get to that in a second. None of my white friends have that issue. None of my white friends have ever been silent that I have now. Now, in like 2 weeks or something, we'll talk about early childhood issues with white friends and not having the language that we have in 2020. So imagine the Black person going through this internal turmoil, not having the language, not having social media move the way that it does. We weren't even communicating with each other about our white company. So whatever y'all are dealing with right now, it's like taking into account that the only person who knew how we were feeling maybe was our parents and our cousins, like maybe your trip to the barber shop or the hair salon. So what y'all are experiencing is decades of buildup. And so the last thing anyone wants to deal with is another silent day when they're legit grieving, if it means that the thing you're going to say is going to center you. And so my hesitation with Davey, if Davey didn't come from the mutual friend who also does the work, like she actually she writes books on mixed race, right? She's mixed race. I took a beat. I'm not going to front. I read your aura. I was like, okay, I like this one. I don't know what's going on, but it's it's wholesome. I'll give it a shot. But I took a beat and I asked myself as a Black man, do I need to teach white men? And I said, you know what? Because it's Pride Month and I've predominantly dated white gays and we've broken up because of race issues. I'm going to say yes. Because there are Black men and other men of color, but I'm going to focus on my experience. There are Black men who have had to leave situations because their partner could not grasp the turmoil that they were perpetuating and putting in front of them due to escapism language, due to the wrong edge of fetishizing them. Like fetish in metaphysical world just means an object that you place momentary power in. Like you just put positive energy onto it, you put like a purpose onto it. But when it becomes the first thing you say to me on any app is BBC related, and you don't know shit about my day, you don't know that I'm craving a particular kind of love, and then I have to decide, is this all I'm worth in this moment? Or I did write your allyship tips of the day. I'm glad we started here. But also, I have to be honest, it's breaking covenant with my people. We're not supposed to teach you. You are meant, like you said, Finn, to figure out the work for yourself. But I think actioning people that are at least willing to say the thing that you can say to your Black friends or to the Black people that you consider you've looked up to, something as inspiring as, don't stop asking them what you can do while they're in the middle of trauma. Write out whatever you want to say. I got about 60 request messages, some of which came from people that knew me for 8 years, apologizing for being so late. It's the wrong thing to send in the height of my trauma. So what I thought about in prep for today was write it out and don't send it to me. Instead, flip it back on yourself. Answer all of those questions. What can you do? Answer that question. And then just do it. Why didn't you do it? Answer that question. Come with me don't come to your Black friend or the person you admire broken, because it's not about your brokenness in this moment. And then the other thing with allyship is it's like, I'm sorry, y'all, but you never get to call yourself the ally first. Those are feats, those are love languages, those are feats of I don't want a white knight, but that is a feat of high integrity. Like no one should ever question that you're not. You just shouldn't question that you're not. And then also, the rule shouldn't be different within the gay bisexual experience for men, but it is, because a lot of gay bisexual Black men have survived well within this interracial power play. And so it's this, if the white guy doesn't want me, does anybody pay attention to me? And so there's that unspoken sensitivity of like white gay males hold the same power as straight white males, especially if they choose, not choose, but if they feel embodied by their masculine representation, they hold a lot of privilege. I come from the theater community first. That privilege is flexed on everybody. Black women, Asian men, the guy at the door, sometimes the producer, like it's flexed on everybody. You get like a diva showdown in a Power Ranger's body. It's a very scary thing when it goes south. And so what we would just want to consider is like, if you're ready to talk about it, that it's not an optical presentation, it's not just for show. And that if you have to take time, tell the people that matter to you you're taking time. Because, you know, let's say you have a high platform, those bitches are going to flip, period. Like, they're going to flip on you. But if you can connect to the people that matter or that you believe you matter to and say, I'm having to take time, I'm not apologizing. Well, I am apologizing for being absent, but I'm not asking you to hold any space for me. I'm letting them know I'm going to take time and I'm going to look at this is the only authentic first step, and they might curse you out. And it's kind of like, hold the space. Don't send too many I hear yous, because that can get annoying. This is my experience, right? Like, I don't want to keep having to tell you I hear you. And it's a little on that. No, my spirit's like, don't say that. The flip of the power play is notice in your body your resistance to being talked at at this time. So that's day one. That's what y'all can really do, is like, really, like you said, Finn, look at yourself, but you have to notice in your body where you're being, when you're talked at, when this is going on. So what does it feel like? How fragile are you feeling? Mm-hmm. And convince yourself that your fragility is not more important than the feelings of Black people. Mm-hmm. Why they're suffering.
Does, like, at this particular moment in time, this like sudden acute attention, does it feel like lip service? Like, is there part of you that is skeptical, or is there like another part of you that thinks, gosh, we're really at some sort of inflection point? And that, I think, like, in a much smaller and much less urgent way, there's like a version of this that happens each June with Pride Month, that suddenly every corporation releases a statement about pride and diversity and LGBTQ equality, you know, and Skittles makes a special Pride Month candy, and Disney tweets Mickey in a rainbow hat, and Google sends 3,000 employees to march in San Francisco Pride. And yet, like, where are the transgender princesses in like Disney films? Or why does Google, who owns YouTube, refuse to solve like the monetization issues that are impacting LGBTQ creators who basically built the platform? So like, is there part of you that's just skeptical of this moment, or does it feel like this is something real and lasting and that people aren't going to forget in 2 weeks?
Well, I'm not gonna limit it to something that anyone would forget, because it's a pattern, and so if it repeats, it's meant to a pattern, because we're just gonna repeat those thought waves and actions until we correct it, and they're just gonna get worse and worse and worse. It's like if you have like really bad acne, and the medicine's not exactly working because you're getting rapidly immune. And so you kind of have to figure out what you don't get immune to, so you can just start convincing the bacteria that it can't really live there. I would love to address really quickly Tony McCade and Breonna Taylor, and a survivor, Ayana Dior. So these are 3 trans people, 2 trans women, 1 trans man, that have been all attacked to the point of 2 are dead, 2 are gone, they're not here. And something that does cycle up quite often is the gaze on what is sacred and what is first line up in the LGBTQIA community is usually the men. We skip over the women, we skip over the femmes. And it's like, this is happening to a man. The gaze of the world is George, like it's right on top of it. And it's a matter of, I don't know why that pattern's like that. So I can only answer to is that I do work on myself as someone whose my pronouns are cute. Like, I enjoy king and he, but I'll accept they, I'll accept them, because I have my flaring femme moments that are very natural and I've worked that out. But I do understand that my aesthetic is male presenting. And so that means that when I walk into a room, if someone wants to fetishize that more than they would accept just the breathing presence of femme presenting, I'm safer. Especially because I'm not trans-identified. I can't say that Disney will never have a trans princess. I hope it's a few of my friends that were on post. I think I know who they'll choose if they were to do that. But what I would say is, we have to look around our family, our tribe, and just call them that princess and protect them and uplift them and position them. Like, that's our job. Every Pride Month has had the hardest time being inclusive amongst each other, because everyone's battling to be seen first, and everyone kind of no one wants to follow the leader. Everyone just wants to lead. And that's really tough. That's historic. And it's hysteric to us because it's not our exact history. We're just mirroring a microdose of the oppression that we all go through every other month. So I hear what you're saying. It gets a little bit spun around because it's almost unfair to choose the thing that I'm not, you know? But I don't think it's something that's just plotted upon. I think it's something that's going to just keep getting worse until we deal with it. And I think the closest thing to deal with is the validity within systematic violent race relations, violent in thought, violent in action, violent in procedure. And then we'll be able to debunk and go, and that must be the source of why all these other things fall apart. Because it really comes down to the constructs of race not needing to be important, but not needing to be so weaponized, and gender not needing to be weaponized for human experience. Whew, making me work.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. I actually donated to Ayana Dior. I believe it's NAJABABIIE on Cash App. You can donate. You actually can get verified on Cash App if you get enough donations.
You're also doing a bit of a fundraiser as well, which I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, boo. I hustled on that. I couldn't sleep. And when I can't sleep, I move really fast. I'm like, I need to do something. And I recognize I'm in Los Angeles. The populace of displaced, distressed, transient peoples is really big, especially in the trans community, especially trans femmes, especially gay males, especially LGBTQIA people of color. So all of us, brown, everything. And so I thought about that, white, everything. And so I thought about like, everyone's outside riding and no one's thinking to give them water because they're not probably riding, they're exhausted. And where I live in, I'm not saying where I live, where I live in Los Angeles, the graffiti picked up, but there's no riots. Like, it's quiet over here. The garbage is on the ground in places it wasn't on the ground. And I'm like, oh, the transient folks are hurting. They're being ignored. So I asked a survivor of transient life, who was a trans woman who lives in theater, if she had any referrals, and she actually like Den Mothers, place in Skid Row that's for Black women and trans women, and it's more like a community hub, and they service about 10,000 people. And that was overwhelming because my goal was 25 people. So I said, okay, what can I do? And then I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. So my goal was 100 for 100. I'm gonna give 100% of my attention, and 100 people will donate whatever they want, and I'll make it work. And I found a Black-owned catering company that initially they were trying to be like their own Uber Eats. And there's like, I think Spirit Meals is in their name. So what you can do is go to Venmo, LeoRising, and you can donate whatever you want. Right now we're at 52 people, so that means I only need 48 to make the goal. I'm cutting it at the goal because that's my personal Venmo. I can't do. And 100% of the proceeds are going to go into the catering company that will then service the people in Skid Row. I'm really long-winded. I'll get ready.
That's awesome.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So 48 more people to go.
Yeah. I mean, I could check my phone. It could be different, but 48 as of this last hour.
All right. So let's see what we can do. And do people, because when I contributed, it said I had to enter like the last 4 digits of your phone number, but you there's a way to bypass that, you said?
You can bypass that on Venmo. You can just say like, I'll eat it. And if it's the wrong person, it's the wrong person. But Leo, Leo dash, the floating one, rising, and that's me. That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I hope you guys participate.
Thank you.
I love that recommendation to make an announcement of some kinds, explaining why, like taking space and why, and just being like holding space, but from a, from an inward place, because I've been reticent to post certain things just because I'm like, well, I don't want to say something that's going to like cause tension, but I want to say something where I really am just kind of, even as I'm listening to you in the conversation, just reflecting and thinking and taking it in. And that's how I often do a lot of things, to know what it is that I want to say, So I like that idea, and I appreciate that recommendation.
Just to be quick, I think it's best to be authentic to how you would deal without ending up being inauthentic in your allyship pursuit.
Totally.
And don't take too much time, but like I said earlier, the best thing you can do if you feel like you're struggling with it is say like, I don't know what to fuck to say because I have a lot of work to do. And my next my next grid, the next 3 grids are just going to be the Black people that I owe an apology to, and I'm just going to leave it there so I can figure out how to navigate that. But it's like, if I experienced life as a white male who didn't have to worry about that, I would be falling to pieces, because I know how I feel when something happens to a trans individual, and I fall to pieces, because even though like I love to get glammed up, I look like Jason Momoa on my girliest day. Like, this beard doesn't go away. And it's just a matter of, it's like, I don't have that I have my experience. And the cleanest thing you can do from universal body to universal body is just be honest. Like, I'm gonna suck right now, and I'm not asking you to pick me up for sucking. I'm asking you to let me get out the way so that you can catch all the light, all the blessings, all the support you need. That's how that would be the best first step for an ally, is get the fuck out of the way. And get under their feet, if anything, but get out of the way. Stop putting your feelings first.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm not soliciting any kind of like pick me up about it at all. It's just like, I want to be like effective and helpful, and not like, I'm not asking for anyone to lean on. It's just like, really want to be poignant and helpful. I mean, one thing, I know this is like Davey and I were talking about Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility. I'm reading that book right now. A friend of mine that's really involved, a person of color that's very involved in anti-racism, gave me that book and was like, please read this. Huh?
Are they Black?
He's Salvadorian.
Oh, okay. Because sometimes people say person of color during sensitive times, and if they're Black, I want to give you the hint, just say Black. Salvadorian's great.
Really, I love that you're telling me that, because to be honest, I've been told in the past, don't say Black, and
it's
so
an evolutionary process.
And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to say Black, because I really want to have care with what I say. So you're telling me I can say that's
it's an evolutionary process. It's like pronouns.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's Salvadorian, and he's very involved in the movement, and gave me the book, and I really appreciate her work. Yeah. And so Davey said that someone had told him, don't read that book.
Well, I think the comment was like, look, it's written by a white woman, and like, if you want to read something that's anti-racist, like, support a Black author in that work,
Isn't that like a lady who just wrote the book on like the Mexican experience in cages, and she's not Mexican at all?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I hear that. But see, the thing that I wonder about that is like, because Robin DiAngelo, from what I gather, she's really not writing from the perspective of a person who's been through it, but from the perspective of a person who has like done a lot of inner work and is wanting to help change and do her part to help change. Not like, let me tell you about what it's like from a Black person's perspective. That's not what she's doing.
It's dangerous in 2020, because
is it?
Yeah, we have over 200 years of literary experience where there were a lot of interviews conducted on Black scientists, Black inventors, Black celebrities, and they could have just wrote the book themselves, but someone wrote it about them. And that's not to say that observation isn't a phenomenal way to exist and experience story and to uplift or debunk something, but it is a little dangerous when the people are very much alive and we can get it from the higher beings experience directly. And it's all about, I do foresee, Davey, that repositioning of the narrative is going to shift. Like, if you guys have, I haven't seen it, but if you've ever listened to the soundtrack for Hamilton, Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story, people of color, Black folks are not playing about their stories anymore. Like, we're not playing. So I would, even if you get a little confused, like, don't call me Black, don't call me this, pronouns. Captain, ma'am, Raja. Sometimes I'm like, just call me Raja. I don't want to be called that house today.
What does Raja mean?
Raja is a variant of king, but it's actually a king that's very much aware of his service or their service to higher power. So it's Persian, Arabic, North African, Indian. Yeah. Pays homage to my deeper studies. I'm really sensitive and empathic for this porn podcast. I hope your audience is like ready.
Yeah, well, I am. I don't know about them, but I'm ready for it. Do you have anything else that you want to share right now, or should we get into this week's video? Is there anything else that's kind of coming up for you, or that you want to chat about?
Not for today's intro. I am grateful that it aligns to meet with you two, and that you can ask challenging questions and not in a non-offensive way. I think a lot of times, like, I'm inviting into this space, and I feel like I'm being invited into a space where it's like, these are my two white gay friends I met in my late 20s that maybe just didn't have the opportunity to ask certain questions. And I'm trusting that if they can ask them, they can choose to be inclusive of what the solution is for this relationship to work.
Mm-hmm.
Subliminal for you listeners, subliminal.
Yeah, a lot of my white friends in particular have been saying, like, the last week or two, gosh, it feels like the whole world is falling apart, and I've had that thought, and then my response has always been, yeah, and maybe it should, because, like, it hasn't been working for a lot of people, and, like, this world that we had, like, also was not sustainable. Like, it was not equal, it was not just. So, like, I've dropped from my vocabulary this kind of language of when things go back to normal, because it almost feels like make America great again. Like, when was it ever great? You know?
Pre-Columbus.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suspect people at home that are listening are having similar conversations with their friends, and just, I think it's something to
I hope so.
to bring awareness to.
You know, I also have been thinking about this too. Like, I mean, I'm coming into this discussion now because it, you know, in the healing of my own trauma, I haven't been able to really grasp it fully. You could, like, and really hope in the ensuing times that we have with you that we can talk about the intersection of trauma, because, you know, we tune into things when we get them, or when they're like, oh, like, I didn't realize this as much as I do now. And I feel like in my own process, like healing in my body and working in the body of like gay men and like what that's all about, like sex in the body and all this stuff. And as I've been healing sex, like I'm starting to become aware more of all the other issues out there in the world. And to me, like, this is healing the body too, you know, like the body of the world, like it's also interlaced together. And so, yeah, I just want to throw that out there. So, like, in this context of, like, you know, things going back to normal or whatever, it's like there is no such thing as normal, and like we're seeing, you know, like what's been there all along. And I'd like to talk about it in terms of shadow, you know, like needing to be like addressed. And it, like you mentioned, the patterns, it's not going to change, it will just intensify until it's like equalized. And so, yeah, I'm just grateful.
You gave me chills. It's partially because you were wiggling and I was like connecting to it, but also because it what really resonated moments before the shadow was, I did have something else to add, Davey, and it's that whether we believe it or not, we're at war right now, which is why people are rioting outside, and their protests have the momentum and the velocity of lava, and their defense also has an offense, because so many people have been brutalized by the people who are supposed to protect us. And most people have never, I didn't grow up as a child who was taught to not trust the police. I thought that they were like heroes, and above the police were the army, and above the army was the Marines, and then there was the Navy. I'm teasing. If you grew up in that life, like, that's the joke you make. If you didn't grow up in the life, you don't get it. But, to have it all occur now, and then think about the necessity of what happens with war. And it's like the only thing that nullifies hypermasculine expressions of aggression is sex and sensuality. It's not like like ram it like a dragon or some sort of like crazy creature. It's fun, but it's not that. It's sensuality. It's getting back to the sacrum. It's getting back to the water of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And my deepest prayer in my work right now, I mean, my Instagram's crazy. I've definitely been telling people off, but my work behind the scenes is bringing people back to their water. Davey's like, yes, you have. Is bringing people back to the water and the sensuality. So another reason why I said yes is that was something I was preparing for anyways. And I was like, sex is really healthy when there's war. We need it, especially it's like, how else are you going to bring this like high charging soldier of a person down, but to just get the juices flowing and have it, you know? So I think it's important to heal those relationships so that the partnerships aren't living out trauma, because that unspoken race issues, in my own experience, my direct experience, have curated a lot of trauma and interracial dynamics. A lot.
And when you're at war, I think it's very easy to put sex on the back burner, because in some ways it feels like a luxury, or like now is not the time. And I think like, no, it needs to be prioritized too, you know? Pleasure and connection and intimacy.
And what about like sex that's divested of the same traits and qualities that are part of the problem? You know, like sex that's not like performative masculine. You know, like those are the trauma intersections. I mean, I experience those in my own self and body when it's like, why am I stuck right now? Why am I? Because I'm like holding myself accountable to something that's not true, or because I'm like, you know, trying to live out some wound again. Which I would say in gay land, I'm generalizing here, there's a lot of that. The wounded, like, it's a performance of like trying to overcome what has happened to this point in time with our gayness. And yeah.
So Melania, if you're listening, then please peg Donald Trump.
Yes. Oh my God.
You don't do that now.
Oh my God.
What does the word the kids say?
I don't
know. What is the word when someone assists you with pegging your husband?
When someone assists, there's a word for that?
And yes, and it's like bisexual dynamics. It's like someone assists you, or like, like I could ask my housemate, but I don't think she's here.
That's awesome. I don't know.
Coming soon to Himeros TV.
Well, to that point, I did live with a girl. I don't know her name. I mean, I know her name. I don't know the name of what you're describing, but she was a dominatrix, and she asked me to be a part of a situation like that.
Yeah, that thing.
And I said no. I was really scared, but like, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's a thing.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. Guys like Donald Trump are like, that was my experience working in New York corporate yoga. I was like, oh. I wasn't ready. I'm kind of into it, but I have to go.
Assist in what way though? Is it like they need someone to coach them for douching? Like, what's the? Like...
I think she wanted me to play a role of like saying like humiliating comments to him about him getting fucked by this girl, and
that's so much.
Yeah, and just assisting in that role. Yeah, and like I can't do that.
I go to like the logistics place of like, okay, he like needs to learn how to douche, like
right. Seriously.
How are we gonna produce this scene? Yeah.
Teach you how to take care of his cuticles.
All right, so let's spend a few minutes chatting about this week's Himeros.tv video. It is titled Joe and Michael Make a Porn, and it features Joe and Michael making a porn. So This was actually the first thing that we filmed during quarantine a few weeks ago, because Joe and Michael are two local guys not far from where I live in Palm Springs, and they're husbands. So they've been like sharing the space together, and recent husbands, which is, I showed this to a few friends and they were like, my husband and I do not have that kind of passionate sex. And then I'm like, oh yeah, they've only been together for like 3 or 4 years. And like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense. So they have this fantasy of being filmed having sex. And there's a lot in this video. First of all, I love that they open by talking about how they're both bottoms.
Yeah, I did too. I love that part.
They're like, hey, let's give this a go. Because it's hard enough as like a gay or bisexual man to like just find someone in general, and then we're immediately having the population again by like sorting ourselves into tops and bottoms and like a bad Tupperware drawer or something.
Yeah.
And
right.
And so they're also an older couple. Go ahead, Finn.
Well, I mean, we talk about this frequently, and really, that's one of those things that one of my issues I love to talk. Like, what you do behaviorally is not necessarily your erotic identity. So, and I've talked with guys and couples that are like stumped because they both identify as bottoms, but when you really get into their fantasy lives, they're not always bottoms. It's just like, this is where I feel safe. This is where I feel comfortable. You know, this is where I've gone behaviorally. I don't know. They seemed like they're very passionate, in the ways that they interacted in this video. They didn't look like, I don't know, I wouldn't have indexed it to being a bottom.
They had so much depth as they were taking care of one another. There was so much, like, I was like, if they're opening this with like, I'm a bottom, I felt like I was like at the edge of the ocean and I wasn't gonna come up. Like, they just kept devouring each other and finding ways to just be deeper. So the fresh marriages, I get that. I've been engaged. I know like the early stage of like passion. You fuck every day. But I don't know, like that really tossed me, because I was like, I've never not dated someone who was the same in the bedroom as me, but the mentality has been an issue, like how we present. And it feels like Joe and Michael are at that stage where it's like, what do I have to present? So I have to buy a double dildo. Okay. It's like anal stimulation, whatever. They were just so there.
They also seemed completely unaware of like how passionate and how connected and how hot their sex was. Like they kept referencing like kind of traditional porn, and I was like, oh, like no, like this is not SeanCody.com. Like what you guys are portraying is real. Like this is so much more fun to film and so much hotter than like two straight guys kind of like, you know, gyrating their bodies together. And when we filmed them, they were like, yeah, we want to see people like us in porn. And so in addition to both being bottoms, they're an older couple. I think they're in their 60s. Joe is a double amputee who's in a wheelchair. And so the sex that they have, that we witness them having, is very different from what you see in kind of traditional like mainstream porn sites, which tend to show a very like specific flavor of sex and a very specific flavor of guy over and over and over again. And that flavor is not one that's accurate to how most of us look or accurate to the sex that we're having, because the porn sites don't reflect, you know, the diversity of our community. And they never actually, like, I don't think there's really hard dicks in it. Like there's not.
They're in that for long, which I found, I took note of it. I was like, they're not, it's not about erection. It's about deeper erotic connection. It's about tantra. It's about breath. They breathe together. You could not tell me they weren't together. Like that's not the gay version of The Notebook. Like now that I know that they're 3 years, I'm like, whoa. The way there's a moment when Joe nibbles Michael's ear, and I cried. Granted, I had a loaded day, but I was just like, he's just there like nibbling his ear, and I was like, he loves him.
Yeah.
I felt let in on a secret. I wasn't even like, I had squirms in my gut, and sometimes it like bounced down to my inner thighs, but really everything was like, it was opening up my heart because they were so enamored and attentive. The attention that Michael lends Joe, who has the amputee, who has I'm stuttering because I'm nervous. Amputations. Yeah. Do you all remember the moment where he massages the scar tissue?
Yeah.
As he's rimming him?
Yeah.
And like he knew how to massage his lover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's moments when we're filming. It's happened a few times where I find myself, because I'm always on set when we film these, and I'm not holding the camera, but I'm kind of sitting at the side, and sometimes I'm taking pictures or I'm just witnessing it and holding space. There's moments where I find myself, when like the intimacy reaches a certain level, I find my head going like this, like just kind of turning away, because it to me, it feels like looking into the sun, or like it's a combination of feeling like this is almost too much for me to behold. I don't know if I can handle this. And also, I don't know if I should be seeing this moment that they're choosing to share with me, because like it feels too intimate. It happened also in the video. It was Jerry's Sacred Intimate session, which LeoRising, I know you had mentioned.
Oh, the proper tantra session, like the sexual.
There was a moment that actually the cinematographer turned the camera off because it became so intense, and like it was just so personal and so intimate, and there were moments of that in this, I felt, when it was happening. And after they finished, they were like, well, I hope this like doesn't end up on like a cutting room floor, you know. And I was like, girl, like this is like, come on now.
I have a technical question. Are some of the scenes coached, or do you just let them go? Because they were real people, so I imagine there's like a back off moment.
Yeah, they weren't. So it depends on the situation. These guys weren't coached. Some of the stuff that usually we film in the context of a retreat. So there's like workshops in the morning that help connect the models, center people. What we've been filming now, because we're in quarantine and we can't have these retreat style things, is Finn will work with the models virtually, like through a Zoom session for 45 minutes. And that's been really helpful. But these guys didn't receive any coaching. They just kind of went for it.
Well, but they wouldn't really necessarily need it either, because we're coaching guys because they're coming into this bringing like, I really know you, or you're wanting to find the authentic threads to connect on versus like just the physical. These guys had that already. They brought that in. I
have something to share. So this is I like didn't know how to weave this into this podcast, but something that there's certain small victories in life, and this changed my life. It may change the lives of you guys, listeners, I don't know, whatever, but I need to share this. One of the coaches that we sometimes work with, his name is Will Tantra. And whenever we film with him, he travels, and he's not going to mind me sharing this at all. He's very proud of it. He travels with a shower enema, like one of those things that you attach to the shower head. And Will, he knows everything about sex. Like he's multi-orgasmic. He can ejaculate on command. Like he just has complete control over like his entire being. And he's been doing this work for decades. And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, I listened to everything else that he shares. Like, maybe I should order one of these shower enemas and see what because I hate douching. Like, I love getting fucked, but I'm lazy, and like, it's just it's a lot of work.
You're a little chocolate chippy, is what you're saying.
Oh. Yeah, it's
Davey. Oh my God. I like it's like the little boy Davey.
Chocolate chippy. It was just so visual. Oh. So I was like, let me order one of these things and see what it's all about. And I got it in the mail the other day, hooked it up to my shower. You remove the drain, to not get too graphic, but just so your refuse all the drains go to the same place. So whether you're flushing something down the toilet or going down the shower, it is what it is. And you just turn it on, and you basically, it's like how you would clean your patio furniture or something. You have this little wand, and you put it up your butt, and it just rinses it all out in a matter of 2 minutes, maybe at the most. And you are so thoroughly clean that it is none of this.
This all like it's like totally like this is new to you though, yeah.
100%. Have you done this before, Finn?
Yes.
How did
remember we had this talk and you were like, this is when Matt was on, and you were like, what do you do with like turds? You just like push them with your toes, like remember this whole talk? And we're like, no, you clean out first, and then like you use the shower bullet or whatever last.
So you have one that you use on a regular basis.
So we have one, and it's not my favorite way to do things, but my partner uses it.
I feel like it's the only way. Like, I cannot imagine. There was life before my...
It's changed your life.
And then there's life after my shower enema. Like, it has reinvigorated my willingness to bottom. So
awesome. It's cut the preparation time down.
Yeah. Like, dramatically also made it so much easier and so much more thorough. Like, afterwards, I was like, oh, there's nothing left. Like... like, I felt light as a feather. Like, I could...
But you like the reason like I don't like them because it's just so they're so you can go overboard with them, right? You know, have you like usually didn't want to get graphic, but I mean they're really good for people that are into fisting, right? You can really clean like lots of surface area, but but you can go like overboard with it too, and then like you like ever can't like I'll never come clean. You know, it's just like you just want to use like a little bit of water and.
I like my little handheld pumpy one.
I love that one. Yeah, that's what I use.
I like that one.
That's what I that's what I used to use all the time. You just fill it with water, but like sometimes like the water doesn't run clean, you know?
Totally.
And
yeah,
you're
but
like,
you can say the same about the shower.
Oh, there's no way that the water is not going to go clean.
I'm
like because it's continuous.
Have you done the 30 rinse cycle yet?
There's a rinse cycle?
No, I'm just saying like once you go up too far with the water, then you're like hosing.
Who, me? Like in the shower?
Yeah, anyone.
Oh, I don't know. I've only done it once, but
a lot of people use it with like water on really high, and it goes way up into your intestines, and then you're like not coming clean for a while, and you just keep rinsing and trying to get clean.
I just know that it's a terrible feeling when like the hookup is coming over and you're looking at your clock and there's like 15 minutes and that water is not going clean, and you start sweating. You're like, come on, body, we can do this. And I just feel with this shower enema that, and I don't put it on high, but it's a continuous flow. So you can let the water out as it's going in.
That's the Will Tantra trick, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I just knew it intuitively. I knew it intuitively.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
thank you. You'll have to send a link for it. We can all come back and try it tomorrow. Next week.
Next week we can report back. Yeah.
Report how it went.
I don't think Finn is very invested in this experiment.
I mean, I've done it. We have one. Like I said, my partner, he really prefers that. That's his jam. So.
What's your butter?
I like the little bulb, the little squeezy bulb, and fiber. I take Pure for Men, and I feel like that just really helps me.
Nasty. Finn doesn't care. Yeah.
No, that is not. You have such a myth about me. He has such a myth about me.
If you eat well, it's not nasty.
Right?
If you eat well.
And we can all attest that I eat well, right? Because Davey.
At my busiest, I just wouldn't eat. I was that.
Right.
I was like, I'd rather be dry. I learned my lesson, though. That's how you get a hemorrhoid. Don't do that, kids.
Oh, wow.
Don't be dry.
Yeah.
Well, this was really fun. I also, for people who are listening at home, I want to give them the opportunity to ask some questions. You can email them to Davey at daveywavey.tv, or you can leave us a voicemail, which we really love, at 612-470-5729, because we can hear your lovely voice. So it's 612-470-5729. Next week, we're going to be discussing Devil's Kiss, which is a very witchy film that Finn and I worked on in Sweden. Finn, where can people get more of you?
Finn, go to my website, findearheart.com, FINNDERHART.com, and Instagram.
And LeoRising, where can people get more of you?
LeoRising.com or LeoRising Yoga on the gram.
And what was the Venmo again one more time for the fundraiser?
My name with a dash. And if you choose to make any donation, you have to notate Spirit Meals.
Awesome. And remember, you can join Himeros.tv with 2 years for the price of one at Himeros.tv/celebrate. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, more to come.